And we're back. I'm going to try to start talking through the colors here. I think I'll save deck pictures because I only have like three-ish that people actually took pictures for. I'll save that for some other time. And without this context, you can jump ahead, 5 videos or whatever. Probably some future videos I'll do multiple colors, but I'm just going to try to do white. Just do a quick video on just the white cards, and I'll be talking so long about it that maybe each color where I'm like going through all the choices will be will just take forever. Okay. All right. Let's just start going through this. Can I highlight these and they will get bigger? Esper Sentinel. This is an actual card that people might know from real cubes. The things that are important to me are the non-creature density is pretty high in this cube in a way that this will draw cards pretty frequently. It is also a cheap artifact, which might matter for various things. It's also like a early creature for some versions of a beatdown plan. There's just a lot to like about this. It's costed well, and I don't know, I feel like it also has the benefit that its card draw ability is like scales with the power level of individual cards in your deck. And there are a bunch of expensive, clunky cards in most people's decks. So it is hard to have this be like an all-star. It's just a nice, solid creature with some good interactions. Containment Priest. There are a bunch of random ways to put creatures onto the battlefield. There's like some amount of reanimation, some amount of flickering of various things, like literally ghostly flicker, some amount of putting creatures into play from your deck in various ways. So this is just like a nice catch-all. It's like pretty efficient for this cube, especially having flash, but it is at the end of the day just a 2-2. Yeah. Crystal Barricade. You have hexproof. Prevent all non-combat damage to be dealt to other creatures you control. The bottom ability just has the benefit of if you have a way that's making infinite creatures and your opponent has a way to deal damage to all of those creatures to stop them from attacking or something. I think there's we'll see this in white later in the letter L enchantments, but this can help you push that through. But the main thing that it's for is it is a way to give you hexproof. There are like 2 or 3 ways in the whole cube to stop you from being targeted by something for a turn or like while something's in play. So this is one of those main things of, okay, my opponent has a way to mind blaze me 3 times in a turn, or deal infinite damage targeting me that isn't in the combat step, and this is just a thing they have to deal with before they can do that, or they have a way to mill me. Tyrannus Magistrate. I think quietly an extremely powerful card. Like a 1/3 for 2 is like a pretty good stat block for a bunch of the cheap creatures in this cube. The fact that it's one-sided, and there are just a bunch of ways to cast spells from places that aren't your hand, and that's before going to the fact that there's Uba Mask and Knowledge Pool that combo to like soft lock your opponent out of most ways of casting spells. Yeah, just a really powerful creature. I probably pick it too highly, or like I pick it the right amount and other people pick it low. I feel like a lot of my decks have had Tyrannus Magistrate in them. Aethersworn Canonist. Just having some kind of rule of law effect, again, to stop people from like going infinite without having to interact at all. That is nice. The fact that it is like double-sided but doesn't impact artifacts means that conceivably if you have a combo that goes off by casting, Lion's Eye Diamond infinite times or something, you could still have your combo go off under your own Aethersworn Canonist. I think that's neat. And most combos do require some non-artifact spells at some point. So, Mandible Justiciar. Uh, it's just like a nice aggressive creature. Also good on defense, like efficiently costed with lifelink. This is one of the ways that you could win by um, looping Salvager's LED. That's just like very funny to me that you have like infinite mana of every color, and possibly the best thing that you can do with it is just to make an infinite power lifelink creature, and then like attack infinitely, maybe only once before they kill your Salvagers, and gain infinite life or gain an arbitrary amount of life. That's just like very funny to me. This might be your combo finisher. Split Skin Doll. This optionally has looting, so this is like generically sort of like deck velocity. If you have other cheap creatures, it just gives you a draw. I like that. Like there's some decks that might actually want the discard, so they have to like make decisions around that. But otherwise, it's just like a cheap, efficient creature that has like a little bit more going on than your traditional like 1/1 for 2 that draws a card. Starfield Mystic, white, and I believe it's just white, has creatures that make things like enchantments cost less. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that allows you to like loop an enchantment infinitely to make this big. But I like that it has like a little bit of counterplay in terms of if your opponent is interacting a lot, that maybe you get like a 4/4 out of it or something. Wall of Mourning. Gosh, this has like so much text for what a lot of the time is draw a card. And I think that's fine. There's like a fun little quest to draw a card. Plays into the Defender theme by being another creature with Defender in a color that it's like maybe less common for. Wall of Omens. This is the much simpler version. This is Wall of Mourning with like 100 fewer lines of text. That's fine. Wall of Shards. Very powerful defender if the thing you are trying to do is block. It is also a rare defender with flying, so this can like block most or possibly all of the dragons, which is uncommon. It also works with if you have things that care about your opponent getting life. I think the most likely is False Cure. In this case, if you wanted to have this in play a bunch, like False Cure under Isochron Scepter. There's like a combo there, but it's also just like a really good defensive creature if you think that life total racing is not going to be a thing that matters. Living Phone. It's just more creature velocity, more deck velocity, more like specific kind of tutor, where it's tutoring for specific kinds of cards as opposed to just being a full demonic tutor of some kind. So yeah, this is just like one of the ways that white accelerates through its deck. Starnheim Courser. This is a very efficiently costed creature for this cube. I've seen a Starnheim Courser deal, in excess of 8 damage, while also making your 6-mana enchantments into 5-mana enchantments. Academy Rector. Everyone knows that this is really powerful. It is not trivial to kill off Academy Rector. I tried to put in a bunch of ways to sacrifice things, but it is not, like I said, it is not trivial, and like no one in the world has blocked with a 2/2 on an Academy Rector instead of just taking 1 damage. It's also very fun. I feel like this cube, more than any other ones that would have Academy Rector, that you are sometimes putting in like an enchantment that costs 3 or whatever. Like you are tinkering in an enchantment that doesn't necessarily cost 10. It's not like an Omniscience or something equally crazy. Sometimes they are that, but it's nice that Academy Rector might actually be tutoring for like a toolbox of things depending on the game state. Salvagers. Obviously good with Lion's Eye Diamond. Part of like the fun joke is that you could assemble Lion's Eye Diamond and Auriok Salvagers, and that there's like not a huge number of things to do with that other than like unless you already have other stuff built out, like an enchantment in play that already gives all of your instants and sorceries flashback equal to their costs, for example. It is less trivial than a lot of cubes that have salvagers LED to do something with that. I think it's especially funny to me that like one of the easiest ways to draw infinite cards has like a colorless mana pip in its cost, so you can't use just salvagers. Like you make infinite mana of every color, but not colorless. That's also like interesting to me. Beladar Guardian works with Kiki Jiki, obviously one of the two creatures that work with Kiki Jiki, and also just like there's a bunch of tricksy things that you can do with it. That's nice. Hokori, another Winter Orb effect. Nice, this is a card that I felt was like I was glad to see during Betrayers of Kamigawa era constructed, and it's nice that there's a low enough power cube for Hokori to come back. People maybe might disagree on how fun Winter Orb effects are. Karmic Guide, obviously, ton of different combos. Just very, very efficient as a creature. Right after this is Revel Arc. Obviously, Revel Arc, Karmic Guide, Sack Outlet allows you to do a bunch of filthy things. These are also just like pretty efficient flyers with good abilities. Totem Guide Heartbeast. Man, this little guy is like one of my pet cards. I remember in one of the late night drafts I did in Philly with friends in Rise of the Eldrazi, we were playing for like an 8-person draft where whoever won the finals got all the rares, and there was a foil Gideon. And I remember winning the foil Gideon in the finals against the foil Gideon because I had a Totem Guide Heartbeast that like tutored up a Horseshoe Crab totem armor so that it was never tapped, so it can never be killed by Gideon. And that was like very fun. In this cube, there are just several different combo pieces that are auras. At some point, let me just do a quick search. Maybe there's not as many as I thought, but Pemin's right, yeah. So there's Pemin's aura, which does the like Horseshoe Crab thing. Also, is just like can attack for a lot with Totem Guide Heartbeast. Presence of Gond is like an aura that's part of an infinite combo. So yeah, you just can search for halves of a bunch of combos. Do it yourself, Seraph. This is just fun that it's like kind of tinkering every turn it attacks. It's an uncard because like sometimes it'll be confusing to figure out what to do with all this text, but it's just neat. And it's also like just a powerful artifact flyer on top of that, but like pretty reasonably costed. Yeah, just like a very fair multi-tinker, I think. Angel's Grace. There are a lot of combos that, might not be able to kill you if you can Angel's Grace on the one turn they try to kill you. So that's cool. You can also put this under Isochron Scepter. So that's neat. Hallowed Moonlight. This is just a one-shot version of Containment Priest that also draws a card. So it's also deck velocity. You might just have this in your deck and you're not trying to do anything in particular, and then your opponent tries to Revel Arc combo you. And you Hallowed Moonlight them in response. Second Sunrise. There are I would say that the Second Sunrise combos are like more esoteric, trickier. I have my eye on this because it could be that they're like too tricky. But I think there's also room for just like a value Second Sunrise, that there are enough trinkety little things to make a value Second Sunrise work. I hope. But I am keeping my eye on it. I am keeping my eye on it because it requires oftentimes 3 cards, like a Dual Caster Mage and a way to sack Dual Caster Mage so that you copy Second Sunrise, and then the copy brings back the Dual Caster Mage to copy Second Sunrise. And then you need like another thing if the sack outlet isn't a way to win the game, like a Blasting Station, for example. But yeah, I want Second Sunrise to be a thing so bad. There are like a bunch of fetch lands. There are 10 fetches in the queue as well. So yeah, there's just I really want Second Sunrise to work. Teferi's Protection, obviously another like Angel's Grace type effect. Also, I really want to put this under the mirror. I can't remember the name of it, to let you cast a spell imprinted on it every upkeep, and you just like step back and you say, "All right, figure out how to kill me. I'm not part of the game anymore, except briefly at instant speed on my upkeep." That's just fun. Beacon. Doubling target player's life total. This is obviously a combo with false life to insta kill someone from any life total, as long as you can target them. Also, of note, like that by itself wouldn't be enough to put in here, especially because a lot of times like having double your life total doesn't matter. Also, as long as you can cast it, it keeps going into your library, so you can't be decked. This is also relevant. It's the fact that it would need both those things for me to keep it in the cube. Once More with Feeling, I briefly referenced this. It's just very silly. It's especially silly in a cube with a bunch of A-B combos where you're like setting aside all of the cards from the previous game, and like maybe now you're both battling with like two hands tied behind your back with your remaining decks. That's like very silly to me. I hate that it costs quadruple white. I would love if this could somehow cost like white too. I would love it a lot. Replenish and Open the Vaults are doing the same kind of thing, which is like if you have a bunch of deck velocity getting things into your graveyard, then maybe you can bring stuff back. Obviously, one is one-sided in just enchantments. One is double-sided and artifacts and enchantments. I haven't seen someone build one of these. It's possible that, especially for enchantments or artifacts with Open the Vault, that most of the artifacts that would like go to your graveyard that aren't explicitly a combo are like too powerful. Like they're getting picked too highly to like build a deck that is just about this. But I'd like to believe, especially in a world where you are assembling A-B combos, and sometimes you might be like, I'm looting, I have two A's, and I have to choose one to discard. I'll discard this one. Oh no, next turn I drew my B for that same combo. That feels bad. That if you can like set up combos, and there are some that are just based on enchantments, or just based on enchantments and artifacts, that you can then replenish or Open the Vaults them into play. Enduring Ideal. I knew this had to be in here. You can do the default Enduring Ideal thing of like trying to lock your opponent out with like Dovescape or Form of the Dragon. You can also do the very silly thing of like get an enchantment creature, get an intruder alarm, get Presence of God, make infinite creatures by only searching out enchantments. That's neat. Duskrow's Reliquary is just an unbelievably versatile removal spell that's very cheap, but has like an upfront cost. Like you're not casting this on turn one most of the time, so that's cool. That's good. Need some of those. Portable Hole, also very efficient, but more restricted in its targeting in a way that's like aligned with this cube a lot more. Where a lot of the removal is like more restrictive to cheaper mana cost. This one is like especially low, but can hit any non-land permanent. So it's like in that way slightly more efficient. Argent Deus. I think Argent Deus is incredible. I think it's one of the best removal spells in the cube. I think paying 4 mana to exile a non-land permanent and let them draw 2 cards at instant speed, like once you have it in play too, or you like pay 2 mana, have this in play, and then you just have 2 mana instant speed exile the thing, is incredible value. The fact that you can attack with a few junker creatures over 2 turns to do it a second time, I think this card is like criminally underpicked because it looks like it has so much setup, so much build up. But having cheap instant speed interaction, even some that you've like telegraphed ahead of time, I think is like really valuable in this cube. Halo Fountain. One of my most fun games, I lost to Halo Fountain. It was a game where I cast my whole deck and took infinite turns and let my opponent have infinite turns. And the only thing that ended up mattering was, did they have a tap creature so that they could make creatures with the first ability of Halo Fountain without having to attack, because I had infinite blockers and I would eat their creatures, so that ultimately they could build up to 15, attacking with 15 creatures and then winning the game in the attack step. That's fun. That's neat. Guilty Conscience is obviously a combo with Stuffy Doll. Also just like could be useful on, I don't know, a creature that is attacking. It's mostly just a cheap combo with Stuffy Doll. You can also fetch it with Totem Guide Heartbeast. So just like throwing another bone at Totem Guide Heartbeast as well. There is a small shrine sub theme. This is one of them. Obviously, like, you know, if you have 3 shrines in play, this still costs 3 to tap target creature, which is like not great. So like I'm keeping an eye on whether the shrine sub theme can work. I tried to keep the shrines in, I think, just 2 colors, maybe 3, but like primarily white and blue, to combo with some of the things in those colors that like care. Also, having more cards that are enchantments matter makes Replenish Open the Vaults better. Rest in Peace. Whoo boy, man, this card, you know, obviously combos with, oh boy, Helm. Like Helm to deck your opponent with Rest in Peace in play. Also another way, like one of the rare ways to interact with the graveyard. It does feel bad if you are just like 100% in on a like Revel Arc, you know, Rexer, etc. combo, and someone just like plays a main deck Rest in Peace because they have a Rest in Peace as a combo piece primarily. But we do need some graveyard aid. And it is a 2-cost permanent, so it is like in that range of easier to interact with. Pariah also works with Stuffy Doll, also can be gotten with Totem Guide Heartbeast. In a pinch, you can just put it on Totem Guide Heartbeast to prevent like an infinite damage attack or like someone dealing infinite damage to you in one go. So I like that. Phyrexian Unlife and Solemnity go together. Obviously, you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life, and then it turns to Infect. These lock your opponent out of dealing damage or out of like making you lose life to lose the game. Also, Phyrexian Unlife without another combo piece can prevent a turn of infinite damage, so that's useful. And then Solemnity, this like surprisingly matters beyond just the combo. Like there are a few random little things that, like what is it, Void Sphere, Sphere of Annihilation, maybe, where it's like it's a slowish wrath, but it requires you to put counters on things. So there are like a few incidental things that it hates on too. And that's nice. Solitary Confinement, there are several things like Squee. And Solitary Confinement is like pretty powerful if you have some sort of Squee effect to maintain your hand. One of the things that makes me feel okay, or 2 of the things that make me feel okay with that, first of all, it is a 3-cost enchantment, which is like one of the most interactable things by the interaction in the cube. And 2, like skipping your draw step, and if you're just like squeeing or genesising, but you have to discard that every turn to keep the Solitary Confinement going, you are committing to like, I am trying to deck my opponent, that's the way to win. Unless I have like a 3rd card, I am just trying to deck my opponent, and there are a lot of ways to not be able to get decked in this cube. So like you could end up in a situation where like your opponent can't get decked and you aren't drawing a card for the rest of the game, right? And like the game is either a draw or you letting your opponent draw their whole deck, including the way that they have to not get decked, could mean that they eventually find a way around the Solitary. Like if you are just hoping they don't have a way to interact with Solitary Confinement plus a Squee type effect, you might just lose by doing that. Enduring Renewal, this obviously works with like cheap creatures, you know, mana neutral creatures. Yeah, just a lot of also like if you would draw a creature card from your library, discard it, and then there are ways to bring creatures back. There's like a quintessential combo card. I can't off the top of my head remember exactly the things that it combos with, but obviously like the hope is there. It also has the benefit of like if you have a creature combo that is just creatures, you can put this in play as a protection of like you tried to go off, it didn't win the game instantly, and now your opponent is going to try to kill one of your creatures or whatever, and doing Renewal also just can act as a like, you're never going to be able to get rid of my creatures normally. Honden of Cleansing Fire. This works with, please tell me Zura's Weirding is in here. Yeah, Zura's Weirding. You know, this started in here as like a combo with Zura's Weirding, where if your opponent's drawing 1 card a turn, you can use Honden plus Zura's Weirding to life neutrally, stop them from drawing cards you care about. And this also led me to putting in more of the blue and white Hondens to like make this a thing that matters more. Though, you know, a lot of times maybe it is the case that you being at 30 or 40 doesn't matter that much in the ways that you win, but it could. Like, there are ways. I think chip damage matters more than a lot of people think. Like, a lot of people look at this list and they think like, oh, I can't possibly win just by combat damage. And I think it is possible to win by dealing 10, 12 damage the normal way because your opponent thinks that life totals don't matter, and then like killing them from there with something esoteric that doesn't necessarily deal infinite damage. I could be wrong about that. Light Minefield, really good against infinite creatures, is like the main thing. Vast majority of the time going to be a sideboard card. Transcendence. Yeah, what a neat little card. Another card that I wish didn't have so many pips. The triple white is hard, but it has a you don't lose the game effect in it. It also has a you lose the game effect. This also combos with I believe if you like false life on a turn, that it doesn't cause multiple replacement effects. So like false life on false hope on Isochron Scepter can like stop an instance of this a turn, or can stop this like every turn from your life total going up. You can keep dragging your life total lower and lower to make it harder for you to die to Transcendence. It also works with, there's at least one enchantment that makes it so that players can't gain life. So that's also like a lock in terms of you can go to a big negative life and not lose the game. And that's it. That's the end of white. Let's just do a quick pack, as is my wont. I'm not even going to look at how long this has been running. I bet it's been over 20 minutes. All right. Drannith Magistrate, very exciting. Elvish Visionary, pretty reasonable. Gemstone Caverns, I think, is really good. You know, oftentimes your good cards are way better than your worst cards, in a way that like discarding a card to Gemstone Caverns to have a rainbow land come into play on the draw is worth it. I think Emerald Dragon's Dissonant Wave adventure is like probably pretty good in that it can like do really weird things that people aren't expecting. It's one of the only ways to interact in that way. Ashnod's Altar, I think, is really good. I think the free sack outlets in this cube that give you something, as opposed to a sack outlet, like, for example, Dimir Houseguard, where you sack to regenerate Dimir Houseguard. That's like not getting you anywhere by sacking for free. It just might still be worth it to sack something for free, whereas this like gets you a bunch of colorless mana that you could use for something. I think that's like really underrated. Yeah, those are like the top ones for me, and then, you know, one of the lands maybe, and then like maybe Drannith Magistrate next. Like I said, I think maybe I either overvalue that or other people undervalue it, but I'm looking at like maybe first picking an Ashnod's Altar, and then after that like an Emerald Dragon or a Gemstone Caverns, just under the idea that they would almost certainly always make my deck. Yeah, not another... Oh, here's another way that players can't gain life. And this could chip damage someone down, right? Because it's like preventing any amount of life gain. It also combos with Transcendence. Yeah. That's just me pointing that out. That's not a high pick for me. All right, and when we come back, I will move on to blue next.